All right, so I've got a Notre Dame guy on the line coming up here soon, Steve. Of course, an opponent that you should be facing each and every year. That is one of my favorite series in the history of college football, and hopefully, and I know that that's coming up down the road.
Yeah, this is another area where I disagree with Jim. I don't like playing Notre Dame every year. I don't, and the reason why I don't like it is I don't like adding a third rivalry game when you already have two in your own conference every single year in Michigan State and Ohio State. And when you have that rivalry game, it makes it harder than it does even when you play another big name team that might even be better. But you know, that built-in grievance, that built-in mystique, that built-in emotion. To me, the model of non-conference scheduling is what Ohio State does. And I've said this for over 10 years. I love what they do. They play one elite level, or they try to play one elite level non-conference team home and home every year, move their team around the country, build a national recruiting base, and then they schedule winning games for the non-conference the rest of the way. I kind of like to see us pursue that model, especially with the team we have next year, where all these guys are coming back by and large. And next year we got to play Michigan State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame all on the road. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's today, September 4th. So I'm going to tell you right now, a year from now, we're not winning all of those games. I mean, we would have to be a lot better. Alabama, a lot better than those teams. You just aren't going to beat all three of your rivals on the road in the same year unless you are 2012 Alabama, 2001 Miami. And I think we're going to be really good next year. We're not going to be that good. It's hard to do that, Mark. It's hard. That's why I would rather let's play Alabama in the non-conference home and home. We're going to play Texas in a few years. We're going to play Oklahoma. We're going to play Washington. I like that model rather than adding a third rivalry game. I don't like that. Emotionally, it's just tough to do that 3 times in one season.
To your point, if you go by the Ohio State model and you do play Oklahoma and some of the schools that you just mentioned, and that's the 1 out of 3, then nobody or few people care if the other 2 are complete cream puffs. So don't even make them challenging group of 5 teams or anybody in the lower tier power of 5 that makes you have to think and game plan and deal with and possibly get an injury or get nicked up or have to survive that game, as is often the case between power 5s and group of 5s, the top tier of that category. So yeah, Cincinnati and Air Force in certain years wouldn't necessarily be the best 2 opponents to follow up Florida than going into the Big Ten.
Agreed. And Air Force came up here 2 years ago and blocked us or 4 years ago and blocked us to death, and darn near had a chance to win that game in Denard Robinson's senior year. But that was the Brady Hoke Wolverines. Don Brown admitted in the spring that they were actually practicing for Air Force during spring ball in Rome. That was actually their defensive focus, was Air Force's triple option. Cincinnati, it looks like it's just going to be a transition year in the first year, with a new head coach there coming over from Ohio State. After the Tommy Tuberville era kind of ended poorly there. But you're right, Cincinnati, going back to Mark D'Antonio, Brian Kelly, Tommy Tuberville, they've been one of the better mid-major programs in the country, but it looks like Michigan's going to catch them in a transition year on Saturday.
So that of course Michigan, having not defeated Ohio State under Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel since 2003, but there is the win against Luke Feckel, who will be on the sideline for the Bearcats in the Big House. All right, Steve Dace, Michigan Podcast, joining us to set up the Wolverines against Cincinnati and more so look back at, I will stop short of calling it a monumental win against Florida, but a big non-conference win against what is going to prove to be a top 15 to 20 ball club, I would think. All right, Steve, we appreciate it. You got to catch Steve on his Michigan Podcast. It's blowing up, and for good reason. Top analysis from himself and some of his guests. Steve, we appreciate it.
Always good to see you, Mark. Thank you. Go Blue.